love you all. I love my people. Hello, my people. Hello. Nice to meet you again.
Lily's on the run, on to something better. Lily's had enough. Her cheeks are...
Remember I said I miss coming out videos? Like, I miss how theatrical things were. I'm bringing it back. I am sitting down. This is OG YouTube style. This is a safe space. We are sitting here and we are just talking, and I kind of love it. Why did we get rid of that? Hello, my people. Happy Pride Month. I hope your lives are so queer right now. I genuinely hope you are waving a rainbow flag up your cheeks. I am going to be letting you all know a little something. Surprise, everyone, I'm a lesbian. Thank you so much. It still feels really weird to say. Like, I still haven't said it very much, but yeah, I'm a lesbian. Hello. Hi, nice to meet you again. I have so much trauma with that word, and I'm sure a lot of other lesbians also feel the same way. I am learning to love that word, because that word should be loved, and that community should feel, my community, like that still feels so weird, should feel loved and honored and incredible. Wow, this is so weird to be talking about. Oh my God. We have a lot to discuss today, so strap in, get your strap. And by that I mean your seatbelt. I mean anything else by that. If you watched my coming out video in 2018, first off, I love you and thank you for still being here. That genuinely means so much to me. I really appreciate you and I'm so glad you're still here. I don't know if I say that enough. I'm really glad that you have stuck with me through a lot. If you watched that very first coming out video, I was at a completely different point in my life. I felt like I had to be cute all the time and I felt like I had to be likable. And I just want to talk about my experiences in such an honest way where maybe things aren't always gonna be cute, maybe people are gonna pick me apart for things, but it's my story. I wanna tell it unfiltered. You know what, and that's okay. First, I wanna address an elephant in the room, which is that I came out as bisexual first. I wanna make it so evident that I feel no shame towards coming out as bisexual and then coming out as a lesbian. I do not believe that coming out as bi was just a stepping stone to me coming out as a lesbian. That's just not true at all. One of my most popular songs that has ever been released is about being openly bi, and something I've talked about for so long is that you're just as queer when you're bi versus when you're gay, you know? And I want to make it so clear that I still very much so agree with every single thing that I have said as a bisexual, about the bisexual community, every song I've released. That has all meant so much to me. I'm not even gonna say I haven't changed my mind. It's more of like those things are still true. Regardless of your partner, regardless of your experience, you're still bisexual, you're still queer, you still are a very valid and beautiful part of the LGBTQ+ community. I've made so much bisexual art, I think. Specifically. So I want to make sure all my bisexuals that watch this still feel seen and you are still safe and welcome on this page. Like, this will always be a safe space for literally any queer person. I don't want any bisexual to feel like I am embarrassed about coming out as bisexual and I have shame towards that, because I definitely don't. I almost feel bad coming out as a lesbian online because it is a stereotype that so many bisexuals come out as bi first, and it's a stepping stone to coming out as being gay or a lesbian, and I don't think that's always the case. I feel like you're either being told you're, at least for me as a woman, I've been told I'm either bi for male attention or I'm just like a straight girl that wants like a little pizzazz, or I feel like I was also told that I was just like a lesbian that just like came out as bi before coming out as a lesbian, lesbian, which was my story. But like, bisexual people are just bi. There's no weird intention that is there. Like, I just want to make that so clear. Bisexuals, I love you. This is still a safe space for you always. That art I created during that time from my bisexual experiences, I want you to know that that does still stand. And I hope that lives on, you know? I hope any bisexual person that comes to my page can still use that. And honestly, I'm gonna keep making queer art. I have a song that came out yesterday called Lily. You should stream it right now. It's in my bio. So yeah, I just wanted to make that very clear for all my bis. Love you. All right, let's get into the tea. The real... Okay, where do we start? I'm gonna yap my brain off. So just like, get a snack, guys. Get some water. I'm a yapper. Now, at least at this point in my life. I told my growing up story from the lens of I thought I was a bisexual. I want to now tell the story from the lesbian perspective, because that's who I am. I felt like I had to be likable, and I am gonna tell it a little more unfiltered this time because I'm also older and I'm a little less scared of what people say about me. I grew up mute, which I've talked about. I previously discussed it as just being shy because it was easier to explain that than like I was mute and in special ed classes, because I was taught for a long portion of my life that I should be ashamed of that part of myself. So it's easier to be like I was very shy growing up, which is already a big reason to feel isolated, you know, being in those special ed classes, having an aide, I felt like there was something wrong with me, always. Aides are beautiful, wonderful, magical things and incredible people that are getting into a line of work that is not always easy and can be very selfless. I commend special ed aides. Regardless, just being in that separate category was something I was able to intellectualize, and it was something that I internalized. I thought there was something wrong with me. Not in a like, I'm not like other girls. It was a lot deeper than that. It was literally, I was in special ed classes. Moving on, I left my aide, 3rd grade. I was still insanely shy. I would have one best friend I stuck to, did everything with, and then that best friend would think I was too clingy and then I would move on to someone else. So I would only be able to talk to like one person in my school, and eventually it ended up being 2 people, and then like at max we're just like a group of 5 best friends. I didn't tell them that I was in the special ed program because like I didn't think it was necessary, and I was told it was something I should be ashamed of. I swear that's relevant. I swear. Moving on from there, I already had that mindset that there was something wrong with me. Middle school started and people started to get into relationships or like have a crush or be talking to someone. I never had that. I never was in a relationship in school. No one was out as gay in my middle school, in my high school even. I didn't have anyone like me growing up, really. I have just felt very, very unwanted for a lot of my life, and I still deal with that. So I was very late to even understanding relationships. I thought I was asexual, to be honest. I just didn't even care for them, and people didn't care for me. I didn't even let myself think about other people in that way. I started my YouTube channel when I was 16, and like that was my life. That was the first time I felt like I had something. I started playing electric guitar when I was 14. I started playing acoustic guitar when I was 10, but like electric I started playing around high school, so like that was something that made me feel like I was actually a cool and interesting person that was worthy of love, which is kind of really sad. I didn't really have the looking up girls kissing or anything like that. I had homophobia. I used to be homophobic, guys. Yep. I have talked about this, but I used to say that 2 girls kissing looked unnatural, but 2 boys kissing was fine. I loved Kurt and Blaine from Glee. That was fine, but 2 girls kissing, disgusting. This is a safe space. I was homophobic in middle school. Granted, I wasn't a bully. I didn't tell anyone these things, but I couldn't look at it. Moved to LA, started doing this full time. It's been almost 10 years. Did a YouTube tour, went through a lot of things, started to find my voice, started to find my friends, started to find out who I really was, started to identify as a very strong ally while being out as bisexual to my friends. I remember the first times I came out, it was when I was doing Guilty Party. I was talking to like queer creators on that set, and then I had a best friend, I still love her, Steph, who was like my best friend, ride or die, literal sister in LA. I was out to her. I had never felt loved or desired or anything, and I decided to go on dating apps. I told myself, I'm 18 years old, I need to find a boyfriend by the end of this year. I was out as bi to my friends, but no one knew anything. Went on those apps, found a feminine looking boy, which is fine. Being attracted to feminine men does not mean you're a lesbian. But some lesbians can, you know, if they feel like they need to date men, sometimes date more feminine men, which kind of makes sense. Started dating this very feminine guy. I don't know, this was a long time ago. I don't blame him for this, but he was a little biphobic at the time. I've kind of been in survival mode since I was 16 and moved alone to LA. So like, I feel like I need to adapt to the people around me, especially at that time. It's a trauma response, I'm sure, which is a whole other story. So I then went back in the closet. There's a ton of planes. You're just gonna have to deal with it. That's just every lesbian icon just congratulating me for this video. Thank you, Chapel Roan. Thanks, Renee. Love you, girl. You're so hot. Yeah, just like flew them all in, you know, for this video. Can you imagine? That would be really iconic. Went back in the closet, then we broke up. Turns out he cheated on me. We only kissed. I swear it's important. I'm trying to be as honest as possible. This is the safest space possible. Literally, you could just like let out a giant fart and I'll be like, you know what? That's okay. This is a safe space. This is a safe space, guys. All we did was kiss. This whole relationship I had with this boy, that was one of the reasons I was cheated on. And there has always been a theme in my life of feeling like I owe people things. And I felt pressured into doing that, and I needed time. I was 18 years old and I experienced something that changed my life a lot, and I am bringing this up in this video because I want to explicitly say that this did not make me a lesbian. And it is so messed up that people might think that this type of thing happening to you makes you a lesbian, makes you a man hater, because like, no. This was something that happened to me that, yes, has complicated my relationship with sex and my own body and physical touch, to be honest. I have issues hugging people sometimes, but it is not the reason I'm a lesbian. It's led to this feeling of my sexuality, my body, my relationships. I don't deserve to dictate those. By the way, if I say something really traumatic and I laugh, I swear it's a coping mechanism. I don't know like how to properly talk about these things. I'm gonna put a trigger warning on the screen as well. Long story short, I had a man ask me for directions on the street when I was a minor. I was like, sorry, I don't know where that is. And he very quickly unzipped his pants and threw his onto me under my skirt in public for everyone to see. A 50-something-year-old man did that to me when I was a minor. He literally did it so quickly in public because I did a nice thing and someone asked me for directions. He proceeded to touch me. I didn't know what to do. I got really shocked. And my manager was with me at the time and eventually caught it and pushed this person off of me. But it was long enough that I've remembered it for the rest of my life. I'd never been in a relationship, so I hadn't really been very intimately touched ever. And to go from feeling like the inexperienced person in my grade to having a older person take that experience from you, it does things to you. It definitely does things to you. It definitely still has affected me, for sure. At the same time, I know there's gonna be someone in my life that is gonna try to take something else from me, as if enough hasn't been taken, and try to tell me that I identify as a lesbian because this thing happened to me, and I wanna make it so clear that there is no correlation. There's a correlation with how I view sex, how I view my body, how I feel like I have to say yes to people, how I am terrified all the time, but there is no correlation there. So I just wanna make it very evidently clear. I have been through something disturbing in my life, and I can confidently say that did not turn me into a lesbian. I do feel like there's gonna be people in my life that are gonna tell me that something happened to me to make me this way, and I I'm not letting anyone do that. I'm literally outing one of the most disgusting things I went through in my life so that no one else can take that from me. So Steph was helping me through the breakup the night it happened, and she told me someone thought I was attractive. Someone that was out as a non-binary lesbian at the time. I don't know how they currently identify. 2 days later, I was like, let's go on a date. I moved on that quickly. I went on a date with this person, and this person I went on a date with was 26 and I was 18. So I was an 18-year-old that wasn't out of the closet, that just went through a breakup a few days ago. I wasn't the best texter, and honestly, like, I loved my job so much that I was constantly filming, and I was finishing online high school. Like, I was a busy girl. I remembered on this first date, this person mentioned they had a dating podcast. I saw an episode one day with a name that was also 5 letters. It started with J, and I realized this person had made a whole podcast about me when I was not out of the closet. And it was just about the fact that they didn't know I was 18 and I wasn't a good texter. Listen, I'll take accountability, but at the same time, I was 18. At least I didn't do anything totally wrong, but like, I didn't know if I was ready to date a queer person. That was the first time I felt like my coming out was taken for me. And granted, Steph, you know, she helped set that date up. She made the episode get taken down, and like, it was super, super appreciated. And she really helped me through that difficult period in my life. But that was the first time I felt like my coming out was taken from me. Like a lot of other things in my life. Sorry, there was a garbage trash truck. If it was like 2018, I'd be like me. But we're done with self-deprecation. I'm not trash. I'm the little treasure you find. The little treasure. The way I'm like literally 5'9". In 2018, I went to Pride as an ally. I thought it was a beautiful, wonderful, magical thing to say I felt like an LGBTQ plus princess because I wore a rainbow crystal crown with a dress. I was in Austria, by the way, which is kind of cool, kind of a flex. I was at an HIV AIDS awareness event, so it was very formal. I felt okay doing that because I knew I was out. I posted that to Twitter, and I got the most insane quote tweets and responses and stuff saying I was queer baiting, which to me was really confusing because I knew I was queer. I was out to all of my friends. I had been on queer dates. I thought I had given every hint I could. So to have my own community, it felt like turn against me and make fun of me for going to Pride, even if it was an ally. It hurt my feelings. I don't hold resentment. If you are one of those people, I forgive you. And I think it was part of a larger problem where people need to explicitly label a sexuality sometimes. When sometimes people aren't feeling safe to come out. I didn't feel safe to come out. It felt like the internet needed an answer from me, which really didn't feel like the right time. And I tweeted, I'm a part of the LGBTQ plus community. Didn't say which letter, didn't say anything like that. I just said I was a part of the community. After tweeting that, I flew 14 hours with no Wi-Fi. I think I set a record for how long a person can cry. It was the worst 14 hours of my life. I didn't know if my parents accepted me. I hope this never happens to anyone again. When I saw it happen to Kit Connor, I mean, obviously on a way larger scale, I really felt for him because I know what that was like. There's so much going on in someone's life, and there's a lot of reasons why someone might not feel like they're in a safe place to come out at that current time in their life, and that doesn't belittle them at all. I think instead of assuming someone's taking up and stealing a queer space, maybe assume that they need it. I was in those queer spaces because I needed them, regardless of if I was out or not. And it felt like I was being kicked out. I was in such a bad place, I called Steph telling her I was gonna quit the internet. That was a breaking point, and to be honest, a very fair one. It was such an intimate part of my life to be commenting on, and to hear other members of the LGBTQ plus community telling me that I was queer baiting, it was very difficult. Again, I forgive anyone that did that, but I just want to talk about how the situation made me feel. I posted my coming out video, and I came out as bisexual at the end of June. A lot of you have seen that video. I hope it is a part of my history. If you don't educate yourself, take a look. You're gonna see a very different Jessie in that video. A lot of the comments were, the closet was glass. It was so obvious. I always knew you were gay. You weren't already out, which is fine, but it was so confusing for me being told I was queer baiting while also being told the closet was glass, and it was obvious. In this same month, it felt like my coming out was not even mine. This public perception of me, people's opinions were just the truth. I didn't mention it in the coming out video because I wanted to be so likable and nice, and I wanted to be the better person, and I wanted to be unproblematic, and I didn't want drama following me, and I was so scared all the time of people not liking me online. I just wanted to let you all know that, because hopefully that lets you all know how important it is to me right now to be making this video myself. No one has pressured me to do this. No one has told me that I have to do this. I am doing this because I want to. And that's such a weird thing for me, but I think it's so important. I've had so many moments in my life where important things that should have been in my control were not in my control. And it is so important for me to remember that that is not normal, and that shouldn't be normalized. And I deserve to feel control over important things in my life. So I right now am, with this video, doing something very vulnerable by taking personal information and choosing to share it. I hope this helps people and impacts people's lives, and I hope people can take this information and be kind to me in return. That's all I ask. That's all I ask, because it is a vulnerable thing. I came out as bi, and I did not date a man after that for a long time, and I had my first girlfriend. Granted, there were issues with that relationship, with also saying yes because I felt obliged to. It was not a very perfect relationship. It was very complicated, and also on my end very complicated. I said I was recovered from an eating disorder. I was not. I was just as bad. That relationship just felt different for me, and the whole time I was in that relationship, I was like, I want to come out as a lesbian. I felt that way. I was like, I feel like I'm a lesbian, and I wanted to say it. That breakup just felt so completely different. I made Phantom, which was shady. I was affected, which I had not been affected by my breakup with my first boyfriend. I went on a date 2 days later. It felt so different for me, and I just didn't see myself with a man after that. And I was gonna come out as a lesbian, but then with me being so affected by that breakup, with me not actually recovering from my eating disorder, I was in such a bad place in my life. I was not coping with the differences in the way I looked. It was a lot at once. So I moved. I was dating a girl for a bit. I felt judged. I felt like I was doing something wrong. I didn't really have queer community. It was not the place for me to be who I was. I never hooked up with a man, ever. I had had sex with women, but not with men. I started dating a guy for the first time in a very long time. This first time I hooked up with a man, it was also SA, which, again, I really want to make clear that is not why I'm a lesbian. I just mentioned that my first sexual experience ever in my whole life was SA for a man, as well as the first time I ever had sex with a man at all. That was not what led me to this, and people are gonna try to tell me that, and I'm not gonna let them. No. That's not why I'm a lesbian. Sorry. That happens with women as well. It's just a part of my journey. It was done when I said no, and it also was extremely painful without any consideration for the fact that I said no. I want to make it very clear, by the way, being a lesbian for me is not a genital thing. I'm not talking about this first sexual experience because it was my first sexual experience with a different part. No, trans women, you can totally hit on me. And I do not care if you've had bottom surgery or not, because I just love women. It is not a genital thing for me at all. I know it's like kind of an awkward thing to talk about, but I just like want to make it clear because I am talking about my first time that I have had experience with a different genital. I am not mentioning it because of that. It is because it was my first time just having sex with a man, someone that is a man, regardless of what was attached to them. Cool. Obviously, I told myself I didn't enjoy that situation because it was SA. After that, I didn't date anyone for a long period of time because that was a violation of my body, and I didn't want to let anyone close. I didn't even have any friends for a while. I lived in the middle of nowhere, Florida. I didn't leave the house, sat at home all day because it felt safe. It was really scary. I hired a friend of mine that was a gay guy to just like shoot content for me like twice a week, and that was like the only time I would leave the house. Moved back to LA, still had that mindset that I had to be dating men. Yet every time I was with a man, and this was one way I really knew I was a lesbian, I felt jealous of anyone I saw in a lesbian relationship. Or anytime I saw two women dating or two queer people that identified as, you know, bisexual and lesbian or lesbian and lesbian, I felt jealous. And I felt like when I was going on these dates with men, I was performing. I didn't even act myself. Every time I'd go on these dates, I'd be like, my parents would love it if I brought this guy home. But like, what about me? What about like what Jessie wants? It was never, how do I feel? What feels right for me? I forced myself to have sex with men that were strangers to prove to myself that I was bisexual. And I hated it. Every time. Number one, I don't like having sex with people I don't know. I came out as demisexual my first coming out, and then I told myself it wasn't cool. And I also couldn't really go on more than one date with a man. The past few years, I have been forcing myself to do that. And every time I would text my best friends and say, I think I'm a lesbian. Every time after I've hooked up with a man, I have texted my best friends that, and yet I kept doing it. You know how they say insanity is trying the same thing and hoping for a different outcome when you'll just get the same outcome every time? It's something like that, right? It was literally that. I was saying the meanest things to myself while making queer content online. It was the most bizarre situation. I told myself, but I'm being a bi advocate by showing that I also date men, but I wasn't even dating them. I would just have a one-night stand with them and then never talk to them again. In my opinion, it was a form of self-harm. I was forcing myself to do something I didn't enjoy to prove to myself I was different, and it's really sad, I think. I feel really bad for myself that I've made myself do that for so long. I also tend to date more masculine presenting lesbians or queer people, so I told myself, well then why can't you be attracted to men? It was like all these things I would hear growing up. It was just like all this internalized homophobia. I didn't even realize what I was doing to myself. Also, I didn't have a lot of lesbian friends anymore. My best friend Steph moved away, and like all my close friends were dating men, so I felt weird. I was like, why can't you be like them? They're all girls that date men. Why can't you do that? You have no way to relate to them. Something's wrong with you. I just kept forcing myself to do that. And I guess what helped me realize I was a lesbian versus bisexual was just bisexual people have a genuine attraction towards men. But for me, it felt like I was only having sex with men when I was trying to prove something to myself or hurt myself in some way. That's gonna sound so bizarre, but that's just how I felt, and that was something that made me realize it. Here's the thing, like, I think Harry Styles is attractive. I love him, but like, he's also a celebrity that's unattainable. I'm not looking to date him. I just like look up to him. There's a difference. Eventually, I realized that the people in my life wouldn't punish me for being queer now that I live in LA with incredibly supportive friends, and I felt safe enough to start calling myself a lesbian. Over the past few months, I've been saying it and practicing feeling no guilt when I say that word, and it's a beautiful thing. I love being a lesbian. I'm not gonna lie, I'm so scared of how people are gonna respond. That word has been thrown around and used in such derogatory sexual ways, and I think it's so important for me to own it. And it's difficult. There's still a part of my brain that feels like I'm bullying myself by saying that, because that word was used to bully people. It's hard to then take that word and then own it and like feel proud of it. I'm practicing and I'm doing my best, but I want to make sure I use that word and I use it in a very proud way. There's obviously going to be internalized homophobia that makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong and I'm guilty and I am not being kind to myself by using that word, which sounds really silly, but it's how I've been conditioned to feel. But I want to make sure I uncondition my brain. I hope maybe there's someone out there that's questioning if they're a lesbian, or even maybe if they're queer in general, and maybe like this will help someone feel better, and also hopefully remind someone that you are this way. There's no thing that happened to you that caused this. You were just queer. And don't let anyone sit there and tell you that these things that happened to you caused your sexuality, because you were born this way. Come on, Lady Gaga. Come on, Lady Gaga lyrics. You should feel empowered and good about being a lesbian. I did not grow up being taught that being queer is okay, so then to come out as a lesbian now, it was hard for me. You know, I have my internalized homophobia from an environment that conditioned me to feel like I'm doing something wrong. Hope maybe like seeing me use that word in a very confident way, I hope that makes people feel better. I just gave you so much lore. I love all my queer followers, like regardless of how you identify. I hope this beats the last coming out. I think it does in my book. This was my decision, and that just feels really cool. I don't know, I've never had that. I'm glad I was able to have a second coming out that was so in my control. Anyways, I'm gonna feature your pages on the screen, as well as your posts. Mwah! I love you all so much. Side note, I just released a song called Lily. I literally wrote this song while I was discovering who I was. I'm low-key Lily in that song. Yeah, I'm promoting my own stuff. I support lesbian art. Stream Lily for the clearest skin and lesbian rights. And I will see you in the future. I promise this doesn't really change anything. I hope this video just helps people. Love you. Mwah. Bye.
Please take the wheel. Lily's on the run. On to something better. Lily's had enough. Her cheeks are getting redder. She's a loaded gun. Changing like the weather. Lily's on the run. Lily's on the run. Get your boy.